Sports. And Jeff, certainly as we get into the throes of the summer season, you'd like to get that win to help you as we look to the chase. But just talk about coming to Michigan and how practice has gone for you so far.
Yeah, I've always loved this racetrack, and anxious to get here and see how the pavement has changed since last year. Anxious to see how this car drives on this track. First time being here, and I can't say I was overly disappointed with anything today. I felt like the car drove pretty good, but we were just lacking some speed, and we wanted to make a couple race runs. We basically got one race run in, and I didn't think it was too bad. Just a little bit on the tight side, and then we switched over to qualifying trim. And when the last run we had an issue where I just got too tight and got up the racetrack, so I abandoned and boarded the lap. So we didn't put up the lap time that I think we're capable of doing. We're going to have our work cut out for us going out first, but I think we're a lot better than what we showed. But I'm certainly it's fast, and looking forward to the weekend.
Questions now for Jeff. If you have one, raise your hand. We'll get you the microphone. Who's got the first question here? Bob?
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. Over 200 miles an hour here. Is it a comfortable 200 miles an hour?
Yeah, I think that you have to ask Casey Kane. He went over 200 miles per hour. I didn't go over 200 miles per hour, not on the average lap. But, we were just really... There is some edginess on sticker tires, so the first couple laps on cold sticker tires, I can't say it's the most comfortable. But I feel like it's better than the last time we were here. When we were here the last time, it was very edgy for the first couple laps. So I feel like, everything was pretty comfortable out there. You don't go that fast at a track like this without the car sticking pretty well. So, I think that what's going to be interesting to see is how does it change when the track sits and we go to qualify. What I saw a lot in practice today was people scuffing tires, making fast runs on tires that had a little bit of heat and temperature in them. So when those tires are ice cold and everything else is cold, and you go out to try to make that fast of a lap, seems like that's when we start feeling the edginess of the grip level. But the car, I thought, was stuck really good. So from everything I felt in practice, it was pretty comfortable.
Next question. Who's got one? Right over here, Lee, to the right.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. In the aftermath of the Jason Leffler thing, you grew up on a lot of short tracks, raced on those. Have you seen improvements over there to the same, speed as you've seen the initiative over here, the way NASCAR stepped up since 2001? Have you seen some of the same types of safety initiatives coming in from the USAC world?
Well, the problem is that those cars have such different uniquenesses when it comes to crashes and how to handle those kinds of impacts. They just can't contain their heads, and I don't know what I haven't seen what all the results were that really caused Jason's death. Obviously, we know it was a tremendous crash, and you could see the aftermath of the car. I heard about him having a Hans type of device on there, which I was happy to hear. But even earlier, a couple weeks ago, I saw a highlight of the Chili Bowl where there was a car that broke an axle and flipped outside of the track, and I just remember thinking to myself how violent the head movement was in that car when it was going through those flips. And it's just, to me, they've done a great job. They've done a lot, but it's just so hard to contain when a car is flipping and moving different directions like that. Where our cars, we're usually more predictable as to what impacts are going to happen. I'm not saying you can predict them all, but you don't have cars flying through the air, flipping and doing some of the different movements that those cars do go through. And it seems to me like it is more difficult to prevent some of the angles and impacts that those drivers go through in those cars.
At Kyle Larson's age, he kind of has this mentality, and they walked away. I mean, he says, I've had worse wrecks in sprint cars, and I'm sure he has, but, at what age do you start realizing that, those tumbles could have an adverse effect?
Well, we're race car drivers. If we thought that way, then we wouldn't be race car drivers. I mean, you have, I'm sure at certain stages in your life you might start thinking that way. But when you're young, you just want to get the opportunity to get in the next race car, and if you're good, you're going to push the limits in everything you get into, and you're going to hit the wall, and you're going to get back out there moments later or the next day and go just as fast or faster. I mean, that's what it takes. It's a dangerous sport, and so are a lot of other sports. And you have to try to do all you can to make sure that the equipment that you're in is as safe as possible. The number one thing is making sure things don't fail. That's the number one thing. The number two thing is making sure that everything around you is as safe as it can possibly be.
Let's go to Nate right here.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Jeff, kind of following up on that a little bit, Jason Leffler had 2 shots at Cup, and it didn't work out either time, and then his NASCAR opportunities dried up this year, and he just decided he was just going to keep racing. How does a racer, like you said, I mean, race car drivers are wired a certain way. How do you just decide to just stop racing? I mean, when you're done with Cup, will you just not race again and not feel that drive again and be able to just walk away from it? Or can anybody who's a true racer kind of just do that? You know what I'm saying? Like in other sports, like when guys reach the big time, say pro baseball, and they retire, they find something else to do. They don't keep playing baseball. But it seems like in this sport, even when you don't compete at the highest level anymore, you're still racing.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of look at everything at risk versus reward. What's the risk level and what's the reward of being out there on a full-time basis. Are you competitive enough to compete at that level? If you are, then you have sponsors and car owner put you in there, then that's what you're going to do. If you get to that point where you're either not as competitive or things didn't work out the way that you want, and you start thinking about your career decisions, again, it's risk versus reward. If you can step down a couple tiers and get a good ride and go out there and be competitive and show and enjoy what you are doing and go out there and at least have a shot at winning races, then you adjust, right? You adjust your lifestyle changes. I think that if you decide to step away from the sport, I think that if a professional baseball player or football player or quarterback, if he thought he could step away from the sport but come in and play a game or two and still be competitive, and they let him do that, I think he'd do it. I think it's the fact that nobody really allows that to happen, but in our sport, they do. I think Mark Martin's a perfect example of, here's a guy that still has tremendous talent and can bring a lot to a team and help them, maybe get to that next level or find something in their car that they need, or just bring a team together like he did for the 5 car. That car and that team, they needed some things to get their team to that next level, and they wanted to make sure the driver wasn't a question mark. They put Mark Martin in there, and look what happened. The team stepped up. I think if you've had a good enough career and you've fulfilled all your dreams, then I think you can find that day when you just step away from it altogether. And but I like to never say never. So I think that guys would like to step away and not necessarily say, I'm never going to drive another race car ever again, because what if there's something that was on their bucket list that they wanted to do, whether it be the Baja 500 or 1000 or be driving a rally car or I don't know, riding a motorcycle. Who knows what it could be? If you feel like you can do it, it's your prerogative to go out there and do that.
So when you're done with Cup, you wouldn't close off anything?
I wouldn't close off anything, but I mean, I think that the way I would be approaching it is when that day comes for me, I would be closing off full-time running for the championship. I wouldn't necessarily say I'll never go back out there and run at Martinsville. I know there'd probably be some that I wouldn't do, but there'd be some like Sonoma. I think there'd be some that I would feel like, hey, I can still be competitive at this track, regardless of what the rules and the cars are, and what's happening within the sport, and go out there and still be competitive, even though I'm not racing week in and week out.
David, you have a question? Then we'll go to this gentleman over here to the right.
Yeah, Jeff, David Newton, ESPN.com. You hear in all sports how teams are in a window of opportunity. They've got to take advantage and win now. Dale Earnhardt Jr., when he won here last year, a lot of people thought that was going to be the takeoff for wins and possibly running a championship, and it didn't happen. Do you feel like, though, that team and Dale Jr. is in that window right now where he needs to take advantage now, or may not be another chance?
Oh, gosh, I don't know how you can say when a team necessarily is in that window of opportunity and how long that window of opportunity is going to last. So you can't predict that. I mean, I wouldn't have predicted Tony Stewart was going to win at Dover, and they did. And then they went and ran good at Pocono, and he was running good today before he had the issue, and probably will still run good this week. So I think there's certain teams that are capable of getting behind or being off and climbing their way back up. I think there are certain teams that are just right on the brink of making things really, really good. I thought Junior had a very impressive run last week. It was very competitive, and it was a great timing for them, because this is a track that I know that he likes and he does well at, and he did well at last year. So if this is a window of opportunity for him, it's opening.
Let's go to the gentleman over to the right, then we'll go to Pete, and then to Jim Utter. Go ahead.
You've had 7 races where you finished just outside the top 10, including Pocono, and you currently sit 11th in the point standing. So how do you kind of break into the top 10 more often? And do you feel good about your chances in MIS today? MIS on Sunday?
Well, we didn't have a great day today, so it's hard to be. I'm optimistic, but it's hard to be optimistic. We've got to qualify better, and today it's going to be tough to qualify where I feel like we need to be competitive on the racetrack. I think our cars are competitive, our team is competitive, but track position is going to be very, very important. I feel very fortunate to be 11th in points, to be honest with you, with all the DNFs that we've had. And I feel like we've had some good runs, and I feel like we've had some lackluster runs, that were kind of non-impressive. So I'm still sitting here pretty shocked that we're 11th. I think we have so much more potential than what we've shown, and we've got to step it up. We know that. But I know we're also very capable of that. So, I feel like, we are on a brink of an opportunity to get ourselves getting more top 5s and top 10s and getting ourselves solidly in the top 10. I'm just thankful for that opportunity to be as close as we are right now.
Let's go to Pete, Jim, and end with Stan.
Jeff Pepistone, MotorRacingNetwork.com and SiriusXM NASCAR. Just following up on the conversation with Nate. In other sports, when a player retires, they'll coach. Jason Kidd retires, he's the coach of the Knicks. Why don't we see drivers retire and become crew chiefs in this sport?
Coach of the Nets.
Nets, I'm sorry.
What'd you say? What did you say?
I said Knicks, but it's the Nets.
Knicks.
Yeah. The head coach of a team in NASCAR is a crew chief. Why don't we see that parallel?
That's funny. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. Where do I begin? One is race car drivers don't work hard enough to be crew chiefs. We don't get up early enough to be crew chiefs. And I definitely think there are some drivers out there that could be crew chiefs. I do. I wouldn't say it's any of the top drivers. I think that you have to just. There are certain students of the game when you look at other sports, and I think coaching. Most coaches were players. I think it's kind of the opposite in our sport. I think the best crew chiefs were drivers. And I think they understand the car and what's going on out there, and then they understand the engineering. And I think that would be my biggest thing is, if you're an engineer and you have engineering background or a very good understanding of engineering, then you could be a crew chief. But I mean, there's very few drivers that I know that have that kind of understanding that it takes to sit in a room with other engineers and the aero guys, and all these computers that are sitting there giving you a lot of information that there's very few drivers that I know of that at the highest level that could pull that off as a crew chief. I think the hardest job that there is in this sport is being a crew chief. I think they have a tremendous amount of pressure on them. I think their hours are ungodly. I mean, they never stop. These guys rarely sleep. They work themselves to the bone, and the good ones certainly do. And they have such a great understanding, appreciation of everything that goes into these cars that I don't think most people can truly appreciate. Not to mention dealing with all the personalities, building car schedules, and then different personalities that have to travel all the time. That's a tough job. So I'd like to see that happen, though. Not for me. No, I won't be doing that.
We'll go to Jim and end with Stan. Jim's right here. Go ahead.
Jim Utter, Charlotte.
I don't mind being a driver coach.
How about an owner?
An owner coach? No, I don't want to be that either.
I believe with the new generation car, we have gone on every track we have this year except for a road course. And lately road courses have become quite entertaining affairs, maybe not from the driver perspective on the track. I just wondered your thoughts, if you had any idea what, if any way, the new car may alter what we see on the road courses.
I don't think so. I think it's still, to me, double file restarts of what made the road courses so intense and exciting. The car, I think, we tested a road course the other day, and I didn't think there was a significant change. Felt good, stuck good, lap times were good. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of big changes there. So we should still see a pretty wild, intense, and crazy race on those road courses.
Final question, Stan.
Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. Jeff, a single word to describe a lap here at Michigan International Speedway at this point in time for you, and how comforting is it for you for the speed in the race here versus, that you would have had at Daytona or Talladega?
Well, first of all, Stan, I can't do one-word answers. That just does not exist in my vocabulary. Every word goes with another word. Usually it's a sentence or a paragraph. But I could just say fast, because it is very fast. As far as in the race, it's a totally different type of feeling than in comfort level that you have at Daytona. At Daytona, that is a track that we're capable of running 230 miles per hour on. If you took the restrictor plates off of us, who knows how fast we'd go. But I'm just saying, throwing a number out there. Where here, the comfort level is and at Daytona we're going close to 200, right? So we're under what the track is capable of. Here, we're pushing the limits of what the track is capable of. So 185 would probably be pretty comfortable. But at 200, you're there on the limits, on the edge, and the cars around you change things dramatically. What I'm anxious to see this weekend, one of the things I love about this track so much is how wide the groove is. You have a bottom, a middle, and a top, and it will get there eventually. But because it's new and the tire's pretty hard and the cars have a lot of downforce, we're pretty much finding about a 1.5-2 lane groove at the time right now until we get in the race. So that definitely means that the car up front is going to be a lot more comfortable than the car behind. Until that widens out, I think that that's why I'm focused and thinking about qualifying and how good I want to qualify, because I know that no matter what, if I'm 10th or further back, there's no way the car is going to drive the way that I want it to drive. It's going to be a little uncomfortable at those speeds. But it also gives me motivation to try to get up front. Thank you.
Jeff.